Oh, hi, welcome to this fun time that we can get together. And I just wanted to touch base with everybody and share with you and introduce my friend Megan Stone. She is from right now kind of Nephi, but anyway, we went to college together and it was amazing, amazing. So this is a little bit about her. She has an MS in psychology, a BS in psychology, sociology, social work, and a certificate, 15 years experience in education and counseling. So it has been so fun to be able to have you guys all gather together to join in learning from her. We're going to talk about anxiety and dealing with it by coping positively. And so get ready to ask questions. She's very interactive and will be able to help us learn. And let's all take something that we can implement into our lives.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jen. I am so excited to be with you all today. I feel very honored to get an opportunity to be part of this community, and I'm excited to share with you some of the things I've learned, some of the things I've taught with students in schools that I've worked with, and some of the things I love to teach my students at the college level as well. And my lucky children get to experience all my learning in my family too, which is what I think this is all about, being able to apply what we've learned through our education to our daily lives and with our most important people in our lives, our loved ones. So we titled our presentation today, Dealing with Anxiety by Coping Positively. I am so excited to be learning more about healthy habits and how we can incorporate all of those things into our lives. So with that, kind of keep in mind these three pictures as they might lay a theme for our discussion today. All right, so healthy habits. These help us all cope with crisis and living better lives. I would love for a few of you to go ahead and put in the chat bar and or turn on your mics and comment. Let's take one or two. Your very first thought when you see either of these three pictures. The bottom right, a road and a sunset or sunrise. And if you zoom in or look really close, you can see a person walking or running along that turn. The top right above that, someone hiking up in the mountains. It looks like pretty rough terrain as well. And or this beautiful boardwalk down to the ocean. What's your reaction? And what healthy habits do you think I might be portraying? 3 comments. And fair warning, I told Jen if no one else commented, she had to chime in.
Yeah, and I'm happy to. And there are some things in the chat too, Megan. So if you want me to read those, I can.
Yeah, please read the chat because I don't have 2 screens up, so I'm not able to read those while I'm in present mode.
Oh yeah, okay. So somebody was saying focus, intention, mindfulness, and clarity of mind, and peace.
I love it. I wonder if you got a sneak peek at my slides. So you are all right on the exact right track. Here we go. So let me introduce myself. Jen gave a really good introduction, but I want to personalize it a little bit more for you. So here I am, 18-year-old student who is very enthusiastically showing up to Snow College. And I was telling this story to my family just over the weekend. And I said, you know, I was one of those students who was so excited to learn and slightly motivated to be independent and get out on my own. I got the flyer in the mail that said, hey, sign up for an extra class 3 weeks before school starts. You get to campus early, you get 3 credits, and you get those 3 credits in 3 weeks. I was like, sweet, sign me up, Mom and Dad, I'm out early. I think they were kind of like, what? So I moved over to college in July instead of August like the rest of everyone. So I've kind of always been that way in my life, in that whatever I do 100%. I'm passionate, I'm enthusiastic, I love what I've learned, and I love my family. I have been blessed to have a wonderful husband of 10 years, and we have 2 beautiful children, aged 12 and 5, and we are so grateful for the opportunities that we've had. So my background is in psychology. I should have added on there that I have a license as a school counselor. And so that's where my work has been, in education, working with students in schools, and in the capacity of a school counselor educator. So I have the awesome privilege of training those that are going to be working with your children, and teaching people to be school counselors is even like icing on the cake to doing the job day in, day out. So I love both things, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to do that. So with that, let's jump into this picture. Now, any guesses what college campus I'm standing in front of? And as much as I would have loved to earn a degree there, I didn't. This was last summer, 2019. I was attending a professional development conference and did an evening tour of a beautiful, famous institution of learning on the East Coast. Ready, set, 3 guesses. I heard some static. Someone's trying to guess. Jen, if you see any in the chat, will you jump on in?
I will. Harvard. Somebody guessed Harvard.
Hey, someone must have been there. You're exactly right. The Harry Elkins Widener Memorial Building in Harvard. I did not get to graduate from Harvard, but I was thrilled to walk the campus as a professional last summer with other colleagues. So that was a fun tour. Okay. These background pictures are of basically the exact same place, within a half mile or mile of each other, and have a special place in my heart. So take a look at some of the things that might give you a hint as to where I am, and at the end, we'll see if you have guessed correctly. But we're going to jump into our content. So, Brene Brown, brand new podcast, Unlocking Us, just barely out this week and last week with all of the community stress and social concern of the COVID-19 pandemic. So here are her comments. This pandemic experience is a massive experiment in collective vulnerability. We can be our worst selves when we're afraid, or our very best, bravest selves. In this context of fear and vulnerability, there is often very little in between, because when we are uncertain and afraid, our default is self-protection. We don't have to be scary when we're scared. Let's choose awkward, brave, and kind. Let's choose each other. So Unlocking Us podcast episode 1 is where this quote comes from, and it is in the resources at the end of our presentation as well. So if that's not on your list of subscribed podcasts, take a look. I am a Brene Brown fan, and try to follow her example as she has researched emotion, learning, shame, vulnerability, and she's one of the funnest, engaging speakers that I've listened to. So let's jump into this question. Are we in a state of crisis right now? And if so, what is crisis response to anxiety? I chose 4 things that you typically hear related to the personal response to anxiety. 1, fight. 2, flight, run away. Fear. Primary physical and emotional reaction often to a crisis situation, challenge, adversity, or experience. And then last, freeze. Some people talk about these in terms of negative reactions to our circumstances. But I want to offer you some different verbiage. Fight could also be act or action. What am I going to do? Flight, escape. How can I get out of this situation? I'm not okay. Where can I go? Fear. What emotion is driving this? What am I feeling? What are there other emotions that I can identify? And freeze, which is often probably the most criticized. But in terms of crisis, sometimes we have to hit pause and freeze so that we can stay safe or keep our loved ones safe. So, one fun story about Jen, and I hope I get this right because I didn't double check it before we started this podcast. So please tell me if I'm wrong. If I remember correctly, Jen and Jason took a hot air balloon ride somewhere around the age of 20, 21 for a very important day and question. Am I right, Jen?
Yep.
Okay, so that is probably in like early 2000s. My husband and I have been married for 10 years, and he has known that I wanted to take a hot air balloon ride for the entire time we've been together and probably the 10 or 15 years before that. But literally, it scared the crap out of me. Okay, I'm scared of heights, and I didn't really want to be floating in a balloon in a basket. So I had to challenge myself to do this. So September 2019, we hit our 9-year anniversary, and he says, guess what? I have a surprise for you. I said, yeah? He said, we are going on a hot air balloon ride. I have never forgotten that you told me it was something you wanted to do, and that is your gift. So this is not just a random hot air balloon. This is my husband and I and our fellow comrades up above Park City in a hot air balloon. The reason I chose this picture is I'm going to teach you a skill about how to stay calm and one strategy that you can use in crisis. And this is not new information. It's very basic, but the reminder is great for all of us. So do you see the 4 arrows going in a circular or square pattern around the screen? They're making a square. Up, over, down, across. So no matter where you are, if you doodle, you can take your pen and you can go up, over, down, across on a piece of paper, or even on your hand or your arm or your leg if you're in a classroom. You can simply go up, over, down, across. And this prompts your body to connect to your breath because we all have to breathe. Even the youngest children, kindergarten, preschoolers, clear up to 12th grade, and all of us that are adults raising children, we can learn and remember to count to 4. Now, this doesn't mean you do 3, 4, and you speed up your breath. You say purposely 1, 2, 3, 4. So if someone's in a state of panic or crisis and they are breathing fast and they're having the physiological reaction to that anxiety, sometimes they slow it down with a 1, 2, 3, 4 square. But then you want to get to where up is 1, 2 is hold, 3 is release, and 4 is hold. So take a moment. If you're watching, I want you to do this with us. And I don't teach yoga. So I do love yoga, but I don't teach it. So belly breathe like you're making a balloon and expanding. If you took middle school choir, literally put your hand on your stomach so that you can feel your stomach go in and out. And you go in 1, hold for 2, exhale 3, hold for 4. Try it 4 times. It is critical, no matter what situation we're in, whether it's the greatest joy we've ever experienced or the greatest challenge we've ever known. We have to acknowledge, be present, and know what we're feeling, and or at least try to discover what we're feeling. So I'm not a photographer, but I'm very proud of this picture. Because if you remember the college picture I showed you of the university, I can definitely be proud of and would love to follow their example. I've never attended and probably never will attend there. This is a sunset picture of the river in Cambridge, right across the river from Boston, Massachusetts, walking with my colleagues at night and capturing just on my cell phone what the sunset looked like that evening as we walked along this path and along the river. Acknowledge your emotions, ask yourself or journal or talk to a friend, how do I feel? Now, some of you may look at this slide and say, hold on, why in the world did you put emotional, intellectual, physical, and spiritual all about emotions? They're all tied together. Sometimes you don't know how to say what your emotion is. Intellectually, you can talk about it. You can say, I know I should be stressed right now because of the following reasons. Or physically, I'm exhausted, I'm sick to my stomach, I can't sleep, I don't know what to do. Spiritual, I feel empty or not connected to my beliefs or my personal source of power and connection in the universe or this world. And those questions help you go back to your emotional reaction to figure out what it is. Okay, it's okay to ask yourself. I will never forget my very first college professor who said, talk to yourself in the mirror. I thought, I know I'm in psychology, but I thought you weren't supposed to talk to yourself. You know, we don't want to admit to hearing voices here. And I love it because you need to talk to yourself. You are listening. How do you talk to yourself? What positive affirmations do you use? What questions do you ask yourself? And is that conversation in front of the mirror, in your journal, with your significant other or your family or your best friend? Is that dialogue verbal or just with your subconscious? But ask yourself, how do I feel? So, same city, if you can't guess. It threw my husband and my mom off. So, Boston, same river, basically, different view as I'm looking. I don't think I'm looking directly west out of my hotel room, but you can see some of the architecture. You can see some of the parts of the city. So, Boston, Massachusetts, has this city experienced trauma in history? I'd love a comment. What are some traumatic events that are well known in the history of the United States, either recent and or in our recent history in the last couple hundred years?
I'm happy to throw it out there. The Boston Massacre, right?
Okay, Boston Massacre. What else? More recent than that. Who can come up with it?
The bombing at the marathon.
Yeah, the Boston Marathon bombing, right? So has this city experienced trauma? Absolutely. Has this city overcome and still has such great, rich experiences, institutions of learning, traditions, and heart? Absolutely. Does trauma define who we are? Think about that for a minute. If you have comments, please put them in the chat and we'll have Jen read some of those in our next few minutes. So you're right. The Boston Massacre, there's supposed to be a picture of the Boston Massacre like hitting right there. There you go. So my sweet daughter was in 5th grade, U.S. Constitutional Studies with one of the most amazing 5th grade teachers. So shout out to Ms. Sandberg for Jordan School District if you're by chance in earshot of this recording. But she said, Mom, you have to go to the Boston Massacre site. I'm in a group of 20 women walking around the city, following the Freedom Trail, trying to hit as many sites as we have. And I have to raise my hand. I'm like, I know I want to go everywhere where you all want to go, but my 12-year-old daughter says we have to go to this site. So I'm so grateful for really good colleagues and friends who are willing to indulge me and my sweet girl. And I needed to pose for the picture. at the side of the Boston Massacre so I could go home and talk to her about what I learned on that Freedom Trail walk. So another question to ask yourself, how does stress affect you? Bonus points for anyone who could guess where this picture is from. I actually took it on my own camera in one of my favorite mountain ranges and places in the whole world. Any guesses?
Idaho.
Idaho is definitely beautiful. I love Idaho. Closer than Idaho. If you know where Jen and I started college at, that's a really good hint. It's in that same county.
You might have to give them the beans. Oh, Bear Lake. Somebody said Bear Lake.
Oh, Bear Lake has beautiful things like this. I think that was Jen's first question, or first guess was Tony Grove, right? Which is on your way to Bear Lake. I think so. Anyways, this is up on the Mount Tyla-Sal mountain range, just up Ephraim Canyon. I have a picture from the other side of our four-wheel drive vehicle with my cute little boy standing out in the field. But I love wildflowers in the mountains, the quake and aspen trees. That's a spot that just speaks peace to my heart. So stress can affect you in positive, negative, and or both. The point on this slide is that stress in small doses and for short periods of time can help us get things done, can give us a burst of adrenaline to help us get through a situation of crisis or trauma or stress that will then be overcome in a short time, and we'll have gotten ourselves and our families or our loved ones through that situation. But where the negative effects of stress come is in how we cope and in long-term exposure to trauma and stress that's not identified and emotions that are not dealt with. So the answer really is both. But the part of the conversation that has to happen, it is crucial to talk about ways to cope. So if you have a notebook with you, a pad of sticky notes, paper, pen and pencil, any kind, take it out. Grab a pen and jot down some of your favorite ways to cope. Really simple, maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 1 through 5. Be honest with yourself. Don't just put positive ones that you're okay with other people reading. Because I didn't bring it in, but I did have my Dr. Pepper in the large size form today. So we have to take each day as it comes and realize what our weaknesses are, what our vices are, and what we cope with, even if it's positive or negative. And with that, acknowledge your emotions. It's never a bad thing to say where you are. Be present, be mindful, be real, be you, and be okay with where you are. Ask yourself, what is your why? This cute little man on the screen is my little 5-year-old, and he is determined to climb this rock wall. And I showed him this presentation. He says, "That's me." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I didn't make it to the top. I got a little scared and I stopped right there. And the other bigger boys, they made it to the top." I said, "That's okay. You were only 4. That was the first time you climbed a rock wall." So know your why. And what motivates you, whether positive, negative, or both. So my 2 cute kiddos hiking in St. George just a couple months ago. And I reordered this a couple times. There's a picture that didn't show. I show this picture because this is a time when I considered myself, my body, my mind, my experiences probably one of the most healthy in my life. And I love that picture. My daughter's about 5 or 6 in that picture. And she's a little older than that now. Very first month and or second month, somewhere, dating my husband before we were engaged. Doing things that we love, and I'm so grateful we captured this picture because I think you can see the joy and happiness in our eyes and the trust that he wasn't going to drop me while we were country western swinging, because he will admit that he has lots of strengths, but his dance skills are not always one of them. I had several more pictures to show you, but you can see my daughter here. She's getting shaved ice, and that's one of her vices as well, and or all of us in the summer. Okay, so I'm watching this short on time. I have a quick story to tell you. 10 minutes left, Jen just said. Perfect. Okay, so my cute little boy was serving as the flower girl escort for my youngest brother's wedding. And the flower girl is his twin cousin, who literally they are born a month apart. He decided to arrive 3+ weeks early, and my sweet niece decided to arrive 2 weeks late. So they went from being, going to be a couple weeks apart to they're still now a month apart, but her mom occasionally would have liked to switch me places, and I think I might have wished to switch her. Anyways, we took them when we got them, but they literally are twins in that they are so best friends and only a month apart. So he's escorting her down the aisle, and she is doing exactly what we asked with perfect poise, putting one petal at a time down the aisle. And my little boy, who has a mischievous twinkle in his eye, got to about row 5 before he got to the bride and groom. So we did really, really well. And here I am on row 2, and I'm not sure the lovely people behind me, but you can kind of see their reactions in that he started to run and throw all of his petals down the aisle. And I think he took this as a moment to break the silence and reverence of the wedding ceremony and show everyone the spark and personality he has. So you can see my look down, embarrassment, yes, that is my son, and the other reactions of shock and joy. This is how he lives life. Literally, taking his professional pictures are never just a stand still and smile nicely with your hands in your pockets. Because we can choose joy and learn from our children and the joy and light they naturally have in their lives. So ask yourself, where are you in your journey? Do you recognize these pictures? This is an expanded view of what you saw on the very first slide. On the first slide, you only see the right foot. But I love this slide where truly right in the middle, you can ask yourself, where am I? Do I need to go a little more right, a little more left? What do I need? What do my children need? What does my family need? I wanted to share a quick story about the Golden Gate Bridge. And I'll do it in the most condensed version possible. We took my daughter at 8, my mother at 50, and me somewhere in the middle. And we decided that we were taking a girls' trip to San Francisco. None of us had ever been. And we rented bikes and biked the San Francisco Bridge to Sausalito. And I am so proud of my sweet 8-year-old who put forth the effort and energy and perseverance and trusted her mother and her grandmother to bike the bridge. And there were a few naysayers along the way. One couple I won't forget speeds past us like they do this every day with their cycling gear on, obviously that we are renting bikes and tourists. And they roll their eyes and say out loud for us to hear, "I can't believe you let your daughter do this. She is way too young. Why aren't you keeping her safe?" I had to think to myself, really? Did I endanger her? Weren't we okay? She was with 2 adults. She's like 2-on-1, not just 1-on-1 supervision. What did I do wrong? And I asked myself and doubted myself, but Nonetheless, it was a fantastic experience, and she still talks about it as one of her great triumphs because it was hard. So again, ask yourself, what are you hoping to change in your life? And what is the first positive step that you can take? We can talk about this in psychology or in health coaching or in other areas of our life, business, organizational leadership. Setting yourself goals, not just long-term goals that are going to take you a month or a week or a year. And I'm not singing the Friends song, but the first positive step that you can take, what's a micro goal, a micro habit, something small that you can do today to step towards your bigger goal. You may say, did she forget words on this slide? No. Again, ask yourself, where are you at? Where are your goals? What speaks to your heart and your mind? Where do you find peace? Is it in the mountains with your hiking boots on? Is it along the beach in your sandals? Is it looking up at the sky and the clouds and the palm trees? So I wanted to spend a couple minutes just on a few tips for helping those you love. And this is a slight teaser because Jen and I have talked about doing part 2 where we'll focus on this topic. First, you have to help yourself. Put on your own oxygen mask first so that you have the energy and the compassion and the empathy to help others. 2, help your family, your children, your loved ones, those in your inner circle. Rely on you and you rely on them. Support one another and find ways to help them when they're struggling, and ask them to help you and accept their help when you are struggling. Spouse or life partner, whoever is your person, and what you want to do to help them be successful and how they can help you. In the podcast from Brene Brown, she talks about this in such a powerful way. So listen to it. She talks about ranking your percentage with your spouse. And she talks about how her husband comes home and said, I'm at 20%. And she's like, oh man, well, if you're at 20%, I'm only at 20%. So we have a gap. What's going to happen to that other 60%? And who's going to fill the gap? So come up with a family gap plan. And I can go through those specifics if we have time. But I wanted to allow you time to ask questions. So consider where you are, where you want to be, what is your happy place. And it may be one of these or somewhere completely different, but identify your own scenery that brings you strength. Faith always defeats fear. Find spiritual strength in your life, your connection to nature, your connection to God, your connection to others, so that you can have the strength and support you need to be able to get through those challenging times. References, Brene Brown, Daring Greatly. This is an awesome workbook called My Anxious Mind. It's a guide for teens on working through dealing with anxiety. It's short, about this big, purple, and has fantastic resources. I've actually run a group with 8 to 10 students working through this workbook at the school level, and it's powerful. It's great to use with parents as well. Brene Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection, and the following there. So, questions, comments, takeaways? Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. You can't see it, but on my shirt is Life is Good. And I bought the journal when I found it after my Boston trip. I was all alone on that ferry by myself. And I love what it says here. Do what you love and love what you do. Thank you for this opportunity. You guys are fantastic. I look forward to part 2. And if we have a few minutes, put your comments in the chat thread or chime on to ask them now. Thank you. Jen, I think that was like 30 seconds instead of 1 minute. So hopefully we've got 30 seconds left.
Yeah, no, this was so good. Thank you so much, Megan. So we will do a part 2 next week. And I will stop. Let me stop the recording. So thank you so much, everyone.